Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Sober Truth Podcast. I want to thank you for tuning in and invite you to check out our Sober Truth Project YouTube channel for more content on recovery, life, and faith. Today on the show, an inspiring and insightful message on how depression has impacted this young man's life and what works for him moving forward. I'd like to welcome to the show, Joey Papa.
You know, we've been having a lot of discussions about mental health, and we did a live broadcast on suicide prevention. And so hey, let's get together and do another, just sit down, but let's make this one a little bit more formal. And we picked the topic of depression. And first off, why did you pick depression?
Depression has been something that I've dealt with since I can remember. I know a lot of people experience it, maybe at a different point in their life, but as far back as I can remember my childhood, I've always had depressive episodes, didn't know what they were then, and thought everyone in the world felt the way that I did, until I was probably in my mid-30s, so maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, started to realize that it was abnormal the way that I was feeling. I'm someone with high functioning depression, so I don't think most people would recognize that I am, constantly battling or coping with depression. But it's an ongoing every day. Sometimes I get really mentally exhausted from the constant uphill climb and the effort it takes to live a quote unquote normal life while inside I feel just completely obliterated, Yeah.
Yeah. What would an episode look like when you were a kid?
Just tremendous amount of self-hatred, huge desire to die, and there was nothing distinctly traumatic about my childhood. I mean, I was bullied in junior high for extended amount of years, but aside from that, there was never any like abuse of any sort or anything like that. But just had a propensity towards feeling really dark, down, always very critical of myself, lots of negative thinking, and lots of fear around other people and not knowing how to act and stuff like that, which I guess bleeds into anxiety, but just really a lot of self-hatred and negative self-talk.
Which is really interesting. I'm glad we jumped right into the I don't know about controversial, but the unknown side of it. So I think that most people think of depression, that is not where they go. They would usually go with sad.
Yeah.
Okay. But they don't even realize that, no, depression is so much more than just being sad. And often when you're sad, you're not actually depressed.
Correct.
So there's actually this variation that most people don't understand. And unfortunately, I think just the term depression is one of these that's thrown around so much in society that it loses its actual value.
For sure.
I'm depressed. I'm depressed. It's like everyone's depressed. Everyone has ADHD. Everyone, is OCD. It's like everyone's all these different labels, except for, those that actually are.
Yeah.
So how did you really come to the determination about self-hatred and the way you felt about yourself being depression?
Well, like I said, it was just chronic. It was all the time, every morning. I think it was when I started seeing a doctor and explaining to him what my daily life looked like. Yeah. He gave me that depression questionnaire, and I was like off the charts. I'm
right.
Yeah, here I am. That's when it really started to click. I think the more that I talked to other people as well about the way that I would feel, like every morning when I woke up, I was in the lowest place possible mentally. And throughout the day, I would slowly climb myself out of that depressive slump. And by the end of the day, I started feeling somewhat okay. And then I would be afraid to fall asleep because I knew I had to wake up the next day and do the same thing. So when I was explaining that to my doctor, he's like, yeah, that is not what we would consider normal. And I was like, oh, I really thought everyone woke up in this like horrible state of mind every day. And a lot of people who deal with anything, even physical ailments, you'll hear them say, I thought everyone was like this until they realized that they're not, Right. And I think your point about sadness and depression is really important because like you said, everyone says, oh, I'm depressed. I always say sadness is an emotion. Depression is like a state of mind, and depression is chronic. It doesn't just like you're not depressed for 2 weeks and then you're fine for the rest of the year.
Right.
And I would say the closest thing that people could probably get to depression who don't deal with it chronically is if you ever have lost a loved one. That state of mind that you're in of grief is very similar to depression, but with depression there isn't an event that happened that caused that depressive state of mind.
Right.
It's just kind of like random and has no real logical sense to it. So many times people ask me, "Oh, why are you depressed?" I have no idea. Like, it's just always been that way for me.
Yep. So how old are you now?
42.
So when you were going through your depression early on, I'm trying to think back, was it 90s, I guess, right? Somewhere in there?
Yeah, late 80s.
Okay, so what about medication? 90s was sort of the decade of Prozac. What was, your doctor's outlook on medication, things like that as a kid?
Well, I concealed my depression really well from other people. I didn't want to scare my parents. I didn't want to scare my friends. And so I did a great job at masking it and hiding it. So I never talked to really anyone, about it until I was in my mid-30s when I was having a really hard time after I lost my daughter. And I couldn't get myself out of that. It became way more apparent. I wasn't able to fake it or put the mask on. And obviously I was in grief, but through that grieving process, that's when I started to have these self-realizing moments of, I kind of feel like this all the time, except right now because of this life event, it's just making it more obvious to other people.
Right.
But not much has changed in me internally, so I think as a child, like I said, no one really knew. My parents didn't know. Even now, my parents, when they hear me talk about it as an adult, they're like flabbergasted because they're like, "You were such a happy kid. You were always so carefree and hyper and, loved living and life and all this stuff." And I'm like, yeah, that's how it looked like on the outside. But inside, I was dying inside.
Yeah.
That
I think we become masters of, just kind of putting on the illusion that we're okay.
Yeah.
Or we rebel and turn to other things. So I turned to drugs and alcohol, sex, and at a destructive level right away. How did you avoid that?
Religion was my drug.
Oh.
So
Here we go. Interesting topic.
Oh, God. I clamped down and I was a zealot in junior high and high school, even starting into college. My whole identity was wrapped up in my religion, and I was able to hide really, really well behind that. And I'm a Christian. I love God. I love Jesus. And, my dedication to him and his dedication to me has always remained intact. But I definitely was proselytizing my faith at the time.
Okay.
Obviously, I didn't know. I was like, it was a coping mechanism. It was a knee-jerk reaction. Like, find something to escape. Find something to make it look like I'm doing fine. And so I became hyper spiritual, even so much so that I think I scared people away because I put out this persona of, I'm this ultra Christian guy.
Okay.
And so people then assume he's got his stuff together. He's good, whatever. And that was my place that I could hide really well.
Hiding in the church.
Hiding in the church.
Wow. I bet nobody does that these days.
Yeah. I don't know. Not much has changed.
So I'm trying to picture a young Joey. Did you like button your top all the way to the top and oh wait, that's Mormons. I am so sorry.
No, it depends on when you met me. I went through multiple phases as most people do as a teenager, but I did go through this like dressing to the nines phase in high school, and then I like rebelled against it and became like a skater kid. I was totally into like punk rock and emo, and that felt more fitting for me than wearing the button-up shirt. So I kind of gave that up pretty early in my teenage years.
Pretty early. Yeah. So, so you kind of get through the teenage years, you go to college, all that, right? When did you figure out that things were not the way you thought they were in church?
Probably when I went to college, I went to a Christian university, but it was interdenominational. So I started meeting people of all different, I call them flavors of Christianity. and they were very different than what I was raised in. I was raised in a very fundamentalist, Pentecostal, evangelical type church. And so there was a lot of judgment seated in my heart through my upbringing towards even other people in my faith that didn't, weren't raised the same way I was. And I'd meet these people and they just had a sense of inner peace and a joy, and they were very loving. And I was like, something isn't right here with what I have been believing. And that was the beginning of me realizing I'm hiding behind a lot of this stuff. A lot of this is manufactured by me.
Right.
And that's when I really started questioning a lot, of who God is, who am I, everything I've ever been taught about Jesus, what's legit and all that. So there was a huge unpacking time in college that happened. And I'd say through all the great tragedies of my life is when I really find God's grace to be very tangible. So every time I've gone through something difficult, I always get a fresh vision of who he really is, and his kindness and his goodness, and how merciful he is,
Right.
So as difficult as life has been at times for me, I'm also grateful for those opportunities to have that, because there's nothing greater than
Sure.
Having that understanding or that revelation that is real to you.
Yeah. I think it God becomes real when there's nothing in your life that really points to you believing he should be real.
Yeah.
But you still hang on to it.
Yep.
So that is a hard place to be, and a lot of people don't necessarily make it through that place, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely.
So growing up in a Pentecostal, atmosphere, and just from what I know of Pentecostal holiness movements, a lot of times, name it and claim it. I don't know if that was the background, but was it so much, one of those things that it was taboo to even consider saying you were depressed?
Yeah, oh, for sure. I think if I had told people honestly how I was feeling, I probably would have been
demons casted out
to an exorcism.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some demons would have been cast out.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Which obviously, caused me to hide more, pull back more, put up this front that I'm good, I have it all together.
No demons here.
Me and Jesus
Nothing
are
to see.
chilling, just kind of ridiculous.
Okay. Yeah. When did you meet your wife?
We met in 2002. We actually met going on a mission trip to Australia. I was the leader over the trip, and she was one of the team leaders. That's when we originally met.
Okay. So, obviously, you mentioned a little while ago, when you lost your daughter and how hard that was. But, just kind of take us through your journey as an adult with depression, and, what it looked like once you got out of college and started getting married and life.
Yeah. Well, I think getting married was very surprising to me. I mean, it triggered every childhood memory and negative feeling, and so I actually was probably more depressed once I got married, just because now I'm in this relational dynamic. Anytime there was a disagreement or an argument, I would always carry the weight of that, blame myself, beat myself up, not realizing that conflict is a healthy thing to have in a relationship. But I think I had an idealistic understanding of what marriage and all that should look like, and that never added up to me in reality. But once we started having kids, I really bucked up and kind of got myself out of that visual, people knowing that I was depressed, and kind of went back into the hiding state of mind, not so much to try to trick people, but out of a survival technique to really be there for my kids, to be there for my wife, and to try to make life work.
Yeah.
So I'd say for the majority of my marriage, that is, in my adult life, that's kind of what I was operating in. And a sense of lack of self-awareness. I didn't really know that I was depressed.
Right.
I still didn't have the language. I still didn't have the knowledge and understanding to know that what I was dealing with all the time was actually, a mental health issue.
Sure. And, I think we just get so used, our behavior as, hiding just becomes so second nature.
Yeah.
that it's almost impossible to recognize what's real and what's not anymore.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people who deal with mental health stuff, you don't want to tell people, one, because it's mentally exhausting to try to explain to someone what you experience.
Right.
It's hard enough for you to reconcile with it, then to try to like get someone to catch up to your life history and your story. Two, there's a lot of shame around dealing with anything emotionally for a long period of time. I think in society it could be perceived as weakness, or something is really wrong with you and all that stuff. It's just so much easier to deal with it on your own, although it's not healthy to do that, but it's easier to just suck it up and move on in life. And I did that for a long time. It wasn't until my marriage fell apart, my son got diagnosed with leukemia, and 2020 hit, which was a financial hell for us. That's when I tanked. I mean, that's when I had the lowest point of my life. Ended up becoming suicidal, was hospitalized for it, and it was a very long journey to get myself back to feeling semi-normal. That depression was horrible.
Sure. Now, how many years ago was it that your daughter passed?
She passed in 2015, so almost 7 years.
And was it really after that it became harder and harder to maintain?
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Yeah. And, I think what's interesting to me, I think, is when we have this life situation, I don't know, for me, it's almost like something just happens where you just don't, it's not even worth it to try to hide it anymore.
Yeah.
Where the pain of what's happened is so much greater than the illusion of people not seeing me broken. It's just, it don't even matter. I'm just, whatever. Right?
Yes. I went through that big phase when I was in that depression of like, F it. Like I was just like, screw it. I don't care who thinks what about me. And there's a sense of freedom in that, because when you've lived so long trying to stay face, and then you finally give yourself permission to let it all go, you're just like, I just don't care anymore. I don't care, the judgments, let them come.
Yeah.
Whatever, all these years, people who have known me in the church, and now I'm like up in a mental hospital, you know what I mean? Like I was like, well, it is what it is. Take it or leave it.
Well, I think in a way that is, this breakthrough that even us in recovery have, where we try so hard to hold on to the image that we're not addicts.
Yeah.
Right. And then until finally the wheels just come off so bad that you're just like, no, you are.
Yeah.
And so we enter into recovery, and there's almost this freedom that comes from, I can now just be me, the broken me, of course, but at least I don't have to put on this facade any longer. And it's literally the same thing where we become so addicted to the way that we present ourselves to the world, that almost has to break. It's almost like you have to hit, rock bottom to finally realize that person you've pretended to be for so long, you're addicted to that, and it needs to go away, or you're never going to find peace.
Yep. Yes.
Right?
Yeah, there's no way to have peace inside yourself when you are not being authentic. You're always kind of at odds with yourself inside, because you know that what you're showing the world isn't exactly what's going on inside, so there's like a dissonance there.
Right. So we're sort of walking through this journey for a reason. It's we're seeing, the different things that need to change inside of a society to be better equipped to walk with people through depression. So just looking at your journey, we see, the kid who basically doesn't want to have to tell his parents or his church because he doesn't want to let them down, doesn't want to freak them out. So that's sort of this not comfortable with sharing truth. Then you enter into, the second phase of life, and, that gets even harder because now you're married and you feel like I have to be the strength in this family. I have to be the one that, handles everything.
Yep.
So sort of, society dictates this is who the man is.
Yep.
And so you have to be that. Also, your marriage has to be like this. So no troubles, you walk through conflict if you have any, all that. So it's almost like here's the image of what you're supposed to be like. And so you're faced, the person struggling is faced with that. And it goes both ways, by the way. So, the society dictates that the wife is the perfect woman who doesn't have any issues because her husband is out there working and she should be grateful, right?
Yeah.
So that is so mid-century. Anyways, but the truth is, it's like that's part of the problem. And then, we get to where, sort of where you're at now, where it takes a traumatic event to happen that finally makes you realize, I don't even have the strength to do any of that stuff anymore. Now, we look at it from that perspective. What do we need to do differently in society to make a difference?
Well, I think any change that happens on a collective level really does begin with each individual. And I think compassion and empathy are probably two of the strongest weapons we have to combat a lot of this mental health upheaval, especially since the pandemic has started. I mean, everything is just off the charts now, even addiction, depression, anxiety, all of those things. And I think learning to be compassionate first with ourselves and understanding towards ourselves will, by nature, cause us to be that way with other people. And really just accepting that I'm not going to understand. Like, if I talk to someone who suffers with OCD or schizophrenia, like, I don't have any context for that in my personal life. So I'm not going to understand fully, but I don't have to understand in order to have compassion or to be empathetic towards someone else in their journey, towards better mental health or whatever it may be, coping skills and all that stuff. And I think the conversation it's getting more and more attention on every level. And hopefully people will begin to see that there's probably a lot more people dealing with mental health than we know, because someone like me, you wouldn't think that.
Sure.
So I think it's the recognition of being compassionate, but also that we don't know everyone's story. We don't really know what's going on inside of one another.
Right.
And being kind and slow and all that type of stuff when we're dealing with people.
What about, any advice for parents that, what advice would this Joey give to his parents when you were a kid?
I think I was always just looking for the intangible emotional safety of my parents and or leadership, in my church or even school or whatever. So with my kids, even though I fail every day at being a great person or a great dad, they too deal with their own mental stuff. My son went through leukemia, so he went through a major depression, wanting to not live anymore and all that. Two of my daughters definitely are very anxious kids. And so I just try to come alongside of them and not draw more attention to it, but try to be a presence of safety and peace for them. So that they feel free to talk to me. Because I think that's one of my biggest goals with my kids is that they feel that sense of freedom to talk to me about anything without me having to pry or push or, manipulate or contrive the conversation.
Right.
And they have, surprisingly, not I'm sure they haven't told me everything, but there have been some major things that they've told me that I'm like, inside I'm going, holy shit. But on the outside, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, how did that go? Trying to hold it together. So that's what I would have. That's what little Joey probably was looking for and wanted, because I wanted to share where I was at. I'm a very connected person. I love to connect with other people, but I just never felt that level of welcome or safety there,
It's interesting. In the book from Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey, What Happened to You, they say it like this. It's engagement.
Yeah.
So actually being engaged with your children, engaged with their lives, their day-to-day lives, not just, surface level, how was your day, but actually engaged, knowing what's happening, questioning that which is not, in hindsight, logical, right? Yeah. It's like I had 0 problems. So it's like, is it logical that I have 0 problems? So it's almost like, we want to walk around in ignorance where, well, no, the kid's fine. It's like, no, the kid's not fine. But that takes being engaged on, a deeper level.
Yeah, and I think engagement with kids, even all the way up until their preteen years, comes through play.
Right.
Or doing things with them that they enjoy, because then they feel connected to you. I was reading a study about that when, kids play with their parents, they feel loved. And that seems so obvious, but I never thought of it that way. And I was like, oh, so I actually told my kids that, and they're like, duh, Dad, like, how don't you know that? I'm like, I don't know. I just never thought about it.
Yeah.
And so, like, my 2 girls right now, they're really into Full House, the original one, like in the 80s. Watching it on Hulu, and so like I watch it with them religiously. I play baby dolls with my 7-year-old, try to have fun with them and play, and it's crazy the stuff that comes out of their mouth when you're in that play space with them, because they feel comfortable. I think it's ignorant of us as parents to think our kids are just going to come to us and tell us everything. If we're about our business, they're about their business. Like, there's no invitation for them to share what's going on in their hearts.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, it's actually, it's funny you say that, because that's actually, play is how counseling with children happens. The counselors play with the children, and that's how they get them to actually talk. So it's, how does like counseling go with a 6-year-old? Well, you don't sit there and have a discussion with the 6-year-old.
How did you really feel about
How do you really feel, right? So, it's through play.
Yeah.
And, that's really just this deepest form of engagement. And, and it probably doesn't even have an expiration date. It's probably one of those things that you can just you just keep doing. So tell us about now. So you get up to a few years back. You understand the depression that you're having. What did you do from there?
Man, it was just one, not giving up. Once I was hospitalized, I got off of certain medication that was really exasperating the suicidal ideation. It took me about a year, I would say, to recover. And in that year, it was like a lot of laying in my bed, a lot of feeling absolutely numbed out to myself, the world. Because when I hit that bottom, I have always cared immensely about being a good dad, a good husband, all that. I didn't care about any of it. Like, I was like, I don't care if I lose everything. I don't care if I declare bankruptcy. I don't care if I'm a good dad, all of that. So I really was at a low point. It took me about a year. And what got me through that, one, was friends that I could be completely transparent and open with. That actually gave me a lot of strength. And that also gave me hope to keep going. And then celebrating little victories. And what I mean by that is, to put that in context, was I would tell myself, if you get out of bed today and brush your teeth and shower, you've done a lot. And I would do that, and I would force myself to get out of bed and do those things, and then I would celebrate with myself. You did it. Good job. And I think a lot of times we're looking for a way to get from A to Z in a quick amount of time, but when you're in a depression, it has to be the small things, because those small things are like, immense mountains in front of you that you have to overcome, like washing your clothes or doing the dishes. I mean, nominal, everyday things you just don't even care about. So I think it's the small steps, small victories. I started writing goals for myself, and again, these goals were like pretty pitiful. Not like, oh, I want to make 300,000 grand next year. No, not those goals. Like, I'm gonna actually interact with my children today. That was a goal. So that was another thing. But I still feel like I'm recovering from that. I think my marriage falling apart, I would say, is the greatest tragedy of my life. Even more than losing my daughter. I never in a million years thought that my marriage would end. And so that was too much for my mind to comprehend. And I still think I'm recovering from that. I still have days where I just want to lay in bed all day.
Sure.
And don't want to live. I don't want to do anything. I just want to stop existing.
Yeah, I think, this is where it brings into question, we have depression that some people just naturally have.
Yeah.
They chemically have it. It's actually something occurring inside of them. And then there's depression that is brought on by traumatic events.
Yep.
And, when we think of when we realize this, we need to realize that trauma is often handled differently than depression is handled. So it's almost like understanding for example, your son, it's like he's depressed. Well, he just had leukemia. So there's a traumatic event that his body,
when I got hospitalized in my life. Like, it was familiar, but it was probably 10 times more intense than what I had felt before. And so, yeah, it definitely exasperated it. It's almost like when you get hit by a car, you don't get healed within a day or even a week. Like, it is a long road to recovery through, physical therapy and whatever has to be healed in your body. And I kind of feel like I'll be walking with a limp for the rest of my life because of the divorce and all that other stuff. It's definitely made a permanent mark on me that I'm sure will get better and better, but I don't think it'll ever be fully gone. And same thing with my daughter, losing her. It's the same, you don't get over losing a child. That just doesn't happen.
Well, and almost in a way, it doesn't have to. Maybe it's not even supposed to. So I think that, the Bible has some verses that get misapplied, and it actually hurts more people than it helps. But one of them is God does all things to good for those who love him. So don't worry, God's doing this to you for his good. It's like, well, I don't know if the creator of the universe needs to have me go through a divorce and a child dying to suit his purposes. That's a little wrong in my opinion, but it happened, and he can take that
and use it.
And I think just our friendship, which is just now budding, is in my opinion, it seems like that's what's happening. So you're going into counseling, not seeing a counselor, but going to counseling to become one. So tell us that journey.
I mean, when I got hospitalized, I have always been fascinated by mental health, but being around people who were hospitalized or committed, with mental health issues, I fell in love with that community. Just being around people. I think I said this the last time too, of talking to aliens and people who were schizophrenic or hearing and seeing things. I just feel very comfortable around that community because I feel like they're not hiding anything. Like, everything is seen for what it is. There's like an authenticity there. So when I got out of the hospital and I started slowly recovering, I was like, man, I would just love to work in the mental health world. And obviously being a therapist would be the most direct way. So that's what kind of brought me to that place. And I love bringing understanding and comfort to people, especially that feel misunderstood and feel like no one gets them or, anything along those lines. So that's what really drove me to go to school to become a therapist. I would love to be known as the therapist for people who hate therapists. It's kind of like my target, because usually those people have had a really bad experience with a therapist, but they actually really need therapy. Like, they're avoiding it at all costs, but they would benefit a lot from having a therapist that they click with, that they feel good with, to help them through a lot of their emotional stuff.
So what's some of the things that have helped you through your stuff that are nonconformist, basically? So what are some of the avenues you've approached to get mental health?
Okay, the basis of everything for me is relationship. So having and maintaining close, intimate friendships that I can be honest with, that I can fall apart, tell them I feel like I want to die, those types of things, and are not shocked by it or like have a weird reaction. that's the number one tool for me. Number two is my diet and exercise. I heard it a million times,
Yeah.
but I used to be a committed runner for most of my adult life. But when I went through that depression, I couldn't get out of that bed. And I would try to go for a run. I would stop like a quarter of a mile into it and walk back home and fall into my bed. Like I just could not get myself physically to do it. So once I got to a healthy enough place, then I started going to the gym again and eat plant-based. And those two things really helped me a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot. When I feel anxious, the best way to get through that anxiety is to work out, because you're able to move that energy through and out you. And, obviously you get a dopamine hit. I mean, there's lots of feel-good hormones that come with exercise. Yeah. I do use a lot of supplements as well, journaling. Journaling to me has always been like written prayer. So usually when I journal, I'm like pouring my heart out to God on the paper.
Yeah.
And I think something about writing, there's something unique about it to get it out of your mind that's different than even speaking it. So that has always worked really well for me. I think just remaining committed to be honest and authentic is the biggest help for me, because there's a paranoia that comes along with when you begin to retreat inward, you begin to isolate, you can start to feel very paranoid, like you're completely alone. No one understands you. No one knows what's going on inside of this head. And that starts to create more anxiety and more panic and fear. So I've learned to do the opposite of that, which is to not retreat. Even when I feel like it, text my friends. I feel like I just want to isolate myself. I want no one to call me or talk to me. And they know me enough to know that I'm actually reaching out for help. I'm not saying like, screw you, don't talk to me. Right. So I wouldn't try that with everyone, but people who actually know me know that when I'm in that place. Those are probably the key things that have helped stabilize me and move me forward in my mental health as a whole. I've really been interested in ketamine treatments administered by a doctor.
Let's go there. Let's talk about it. What do you know?
Well, psychedelics in general seem to be under a doctor's care, very effective at treating resistant depression. So even though I'm on Lexapro helped me a lot with my anxiety. I don't know if it's really touched my depression, and I've been on 6 or 7 different antidepressants. None of them have really helped me. So I'd be a prime candidate to try ketamine. I called the place up in Tampa, and, she's all about helping me and treating me, but it's costly. It's 6 treatments.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the data and the research on it is pretty uncanny. Like, it can not cure depression, but really help you along.
It does do a lot. I had one of the men that I work with went through the treatment. He has PTSD and depression that it came from that, and it really did help him.
Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting approach. What about ayahuasca?
No, I don't think I would do that. I would definitely do psilocybin.
Oh, well, wow. Now one but not the other? Why?
I've watched documentaries on it, and it kind of freaks me out, like the process that you go through when you're
you mean what happens to the body? Or the whole...
Like people puke, and it's like a 6-hour ordeal. I'm like, probably not for me. But psilocybin's also being studied. I think psychedelics are the next wave of treatment for anxiety and depression, probably in the next 10 years. Obviously, they're all in clinical trials right now. Some doctors are administering them under those clinical trials, and they are seeing incredible success. So from what I understand, psychedelics have a way of accessing both sides of the brain.
Absolutely.
And allowing them to connect and communicate, which actually helps to resolve trauma. Whereas in normal, traditional antidepressants, it's like taking Tylenol. You're kind of masking the problem by forcing your brain to produce more serotonin or dopamine or all these other neurotransmitters, not really helping the brain to resolve the issues. But with these psychedelics, from what I've understood, they help the brain to actually resolve it. So you actually are getting to the root cause. It's not just like about getting high or having a trip or anything like that. It's used for medical purposes.
Yeah, I think anybody who knows me knows that I am adamantly against the war on drugs. I think it's done way more harm than anything good. And I think it was don't get me started on my theories because people will tune me out forever. But let's just say I think it was an evil thing right from the start. So
yeah, counterproductive for sure.
Counterproductive for sure, but outright evil. Anyways, but one of the casualties of that is the psilocybin treatment. The treatment that they were doing on those types of drugs were a casualty of that war.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that has prevented mental health from, achieving who knows what it could have achieved. Because unfortunately, the way that the policies are written around the war on drugs is that we demanded that every other country follow our procedures. So we had our war on drugs, but we forced every other country to do the same thing. Otherwise, we would levy tax, tariffs against them.
So the American way, man.
The American way, man. It's not American.
Our way or no way.
It's our world, American world. So no other country was allowed to study this type of medication either.
Yeah.
And it has hurt us tremendously because I believe you're right that the future is in those studies.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I learned that LSD was created in a medical lab for medical purposes, and then once it leaked out onto the streets, it got this horrible rap, and now it got taken away.
Timothy Leary.
Yeah, and now they're starting to bring it back
at Harvard University.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah. And if you think of the treatment for cancer patients that are about to die, that are in their final stages, and you're going to take them away from the ability to have those moments with their loved ones, that can be provided by so many treatments that because of the war on drugs we're not allowing people to have.
Yep. I think that's all starting to get undone.
It is
to a large degree. I mean, there's been so many people who have come out publicly and said exactly what you're saying, people that are in the medical and the psychiatric world that are pushing to get those laws overturned. Obviously, this whole marijuana situation is proving that there's tons of medical benefits from it, but no one could ever study it because it was a Schedule I.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Let me just say it this way. So, okay, I am in recovery, and so, a lot of people that listen to me or follow me, they're like, oh, how could you say these things? It's like, listen, those of us that are in recovery, we still are in recovery, so we can't just go do all these things.
Yep.
But here's what we don't know, what people don't realize is that if you took 100% of the people that try drugs and alcohol, only 10 to 8% of them become addicts. So we tend to look at drugs and alcohol and say they're all bad because of that 10 or 8% of us that really screwed it up for the rest of y'all.
Yeah.
But that's not actually, what it's. I'm not saying that all this should be legal. Maybe not. But there's plenty of proof that there's people that could go and snort a few lines of cocaine on a weekend and then do it maybe one other time the rest of the year, and maybe not again for a couple of years, and be totally fine during that time and productive members of society and whatever. So, but we tend to look at these policies and say, no, they're got to be for everybody.
Yeah.
And that just totally presents something that's not actually correct. And unfortunately, the stereotypes around all things now are based upon the worst of us, and yet, we're preventing the healing for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's almost like, when we look at, the problem with opiates and the way that, they were so mishandled. But the truth is, opiates are some of the greatest antidepressants out there. That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because they weren't labeled, they weren't handled right, they weren't, prescribed right, and all of that. And so now it's totally classified in an area that doesn't need to be, and it's preventing people from getting the help that they need.
Yeah. It's very complicated.
Oh, yeah. As I said, don't get me started. So what about this other thing you try? You do it, not the kava, but the
Kratom.
Kratom.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us
man.
about it.
Kratom, man. I'm on it. I'm all about it. Kratom is a natural plant. It's an herb, cousin to the coffee shrub. So it's in the same family as coffee. And people in Southeastern Asia have used it for thousands of years. They just take the leaves of the tree and it has unique alkaloids in it that interact with your brain chemistry or whatever. It is the best natural alternative that I have found for my depression and anxiety. It's a very unique substance because it not only gives you this like incredible mood lift, so that helps with my depression. It also makes me feel very motivated and focused. But a lot of things that do that are stimulants, and they actually exacerbate anxiety. But with this, like if I drink too much coffee, my anxiety like is off the roof. But with Kratom, when taken properly, it not only lifts the mood, but it decreases my anxiety. So it's like a sense of calm that I get from it. And I take it every day. Like I said, it's just a leaf of a plant that gets crushed up, and people take it in a powder form or sometimes in capsules. And it has been very effective at helping people to get off of opioids and other narcotics, because it is an antagonist to your opioid receptors. So it helps with withdrawals and getting people off of the hard stuff.
Right.
People also use it for pain management. A lot of people use it for PTSD. So it has a lot of really cool benefits. Obviously, the federal government doesn't like it, and there's always like a thing with it. Some dude back in the 60s tried to patent the alkaloids that are in Kratom, and when it got to the Supreme Court, the decision was made, and this actually became a policy, a law, that any plant or anything that is 100% naturally occurring cannot be patented. So he wanted to take the alkaloids and make a medication, basically sell it as a med off of it. Now he's the biggest anti-Kratom advocate out there.
Really?
Yeah, he got butthurt, and he's bitter and probably just a greedy SOB. So he's like, does not like Kratom, wants it to be banned and all that. But it's legal in most of the states. I think it's maybe illegal or banned in 4 or 5 states. But yeah, it's legal. You have to be 21 to buy it. But to me, it has had no negative side effects. I mean, it can give you constipation, if you're not eating enough fiber, but that's about it.
Okay, that's a public service message for you.
But yeah, on my YouTube channel, I have quite a few videos about it, and there's a really cool Kratom community of a lot of people that are dealing with mental health or chronic pain, former or addicts, that are getting clean and sober and stuff like that.
Where's your YouTube channel?
It's YouTube. Joey Talks is the name of the channel.
Cool.
Yeah.
YouTube.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Yes, I talk about all things mental health, not just Kratom, but if you want to learn more about Kratom,
it's on there as well.
Go there. Yeah.
You can go there as well.
Yeah.
So, what do you have advice-wise for someone who might be struggling right now?
Aside from trying Kratom?
There's that.
To find a trusted person. That's the number one step for me that has been a game changer. There is nothing more freeing in this life that I have found than sitting with someone that loves you, that is committed to your well-being, and you can fully expose all of the crap in your life and still be accepted, loved, and cared for. Obviously, it's a two-way street in any relationship, but finding that person. And for people, I tell people all the time, if you don't have anyone like that in your life, it's very risky and takes a lot of courage to go there with people. But if you don't have that person, finding a licensed therapist or a mental health provider to be that person for you in the meantime, you have to get whatever's going on inside of you out of you. Like, to live with that is mental torment,
Right.
And so I think that's the first step. Finding a person, doesn't have to be a million people, just one person to do that. And then to start doing some things that are proactive, like exercising. I hate when people say that. I hate that I'm even saying it, because I know it so well. Everyone's like, exercise will really help your mental health. I'm like, just shut up already. But it does. It really, really does.
Really does.
And, I think I'm a big firm believer in getting your diet to help support your brain, help support, your physical body as well. And those things help too. Being involved with a spiritual community, having a spiritual practice is vitally important, I think, as well, for our emotional health too. So
any advice to the person who's listening?
Really take that bold step to get whatever's going on inside of you out. Even if you are completely afraid and panicked to talk to someone else, write it out then.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be a way to get it out of your head onto paper blog about it, make a video, talk to a friend, whatever it is. And that they're not alone. I think anyone who deals with mental health, you feel so odd.
Yeah.
Like you're the odd one out in the crowd. No one else understands. No one gets it, whatever. And to a large degree, that is true. A lot of people don't understand and don't get it. But you're not alone. Like there are so many people out there that are having a very similar struggle. And I think the recognition of that is comforting in and of itself.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right on that. And I also think there is so many resources out there nowadays that, we don't really have any excuse to not learn more about this. There's other YouTube channels. There's all sorts of things to learn about mental health. So whether you're the person who's struggling or the person who's wondering if your friends are struggling, there's ways around sort of your lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
To get the knowledge you need to actually make a difference.
Yeah, and I would say to the listeners out there who don't deal with depression or anxiety or PTSD or any severe mental challenge, learn to be a presence for the people in your life that are. And what I mean by that is probably the worst thing you could say to someone who's dealing with depression is like, what are you depressed about? Like,
don't
your
say
life
that.
is so good.
Yeah,
like you have 4 beautiful children, you have a house, you have this, and you're like, you're definitely not getting it. I would definitely say it's more about being with someone than it is like what you're saying to them.
Right.
And the thing that has brought me the most comfort and my friends who also deal with some significant mental health challenges is learning to be present with someone, doing things, not making a bigger deal about the mental illness than it is. Because usually someone is carrying a level of shame. And so anytime you're like, reacting or overreacting to something they're telling you, like if someone tells you, I want to kill myself, the worst thing to do would be like, what did you say?
Right.
Like being shocked by it. Even you may feel that way inside, learn to not show that on the outside and just be cool with them, be patient, be kind. And that makes all the difference. I've watched a lot of these documentaries about people who have tried to commit suicide and were not successful. And it's crazy how much a smile or a kind word or someone called them on the phone, like completely changed the trajectory that they were going down.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't take much.
And I think, some recent events in our lives make me want to also say, if you have somebody in your life that they went through something traumatic, and they have a lot of people around them, don't assume that somebody's talking to them.
Yeah.
Because often everybody's assuming somebody else is doing it, and so no one does it.
Yep.
So there was, I forget what the study is called, but what was it called? It's, can't remember, but there was a tragic case in New York City many years ago of a woman that was raped on the streets. And as she screamed for help, no one came. And it was in the middle of like a crowded area. And so for years, psychologists studied that. They're like, are all these people just so evil? And I forget what it's called, but there is an actual name to it. But everyone assumes someone else is going to help.
Yeah.
So what is it called? I can't remember. It's going to bug me now. But anyways, there's an actual thing. But everybody assumes somebody else is going to be the one that goes to get the help. It's not that everybody was evil and no one did. It's that they just figured somebody else was going to do that. And the same thing is true when it comes to people that are struggling with something that's happened in their life. You could be super close with them and their friends, but no one ends up being the one that approaches them and says, hey, I know what happened sucked.
Yes.
What could I do?
Yep.
And
I think what you're saying is hits the nail on the head. Like it is literally just simple questions.
Yeah.
That will lead. I mean, everyone is dying to be seen and heard, like whether we know it or not. And so just saying, hey man, what's going on? How's your week been? Whatever.
Right.
And then, you just go from there off of the questions like, how are things going?
Yeah.
How are things going? Like, what are you up to? What's blah, blah, blah. And then sharing your own vulnerabilities will give them permission to want to share with you. So it's really a very simple path, but it just takes a lot of courage to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Simple but hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people don't want to be open.
But yeah, we don't want to be vulnerable.
All right.
Yeah.
Joey, this is great, man. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, man.
We're going to have more of these.
Yes.
We got to pick what the next topic is now.
Great. No,
Kratom.
just kidding.
He's really pushing the Kratom, folks. So, yeah, everybody, thanks for watching. Joey and I are going to be doing more stuff together. So
Sure.
definitely comment, give us ideas. What did you want us to do? And we'll have a discussion about it, even if we don't know what we're talking about. I've made it this far in life, not knowing what I'm talking about.
Hey, man, fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it, and I'm still trying to make it. So,
Me too.
all right, everybody, peace.
Cool.